Good morning, you're watching World Business Report right here on News9 Live. I'm Karthik Malhotra. Over the next 20-25 minutes, all the action from the world of business from across the world coming your way. Stay tuned to World Business Report. Well, you're watching World Business Report, and inside news coming in from the US. Charlie Munger, the longtime vice chairman and second in command to Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway, died on Tuesday morning US time, November 28th, at a California hospital. Munger was 99 and would have turned 100 on Jan 1st, 2024. He died peacefully as per a statement by Berkshire, where no cause of his death was given. To quote Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway could not have been built to its present status without Charlie's inspiration, wisdom and participation. Well, Munger had been a Berkshire vice chairman since 1978, working closely with Buffett on allocating the Omaha, Nebraska-based conglomerate's capital and being quick to tell him when he was making a mistake. Well, the death of Munger is unlikely to have a major impact on Berkshire's operations. Well, that's the sad news coming in all the way from the US this morning. And well, starting the day now with Wall Street, US stocks closed slightly higher on Tuesday after trading in a narrow range. Investors had a hard day grappling with conflicting remarks from Fed Reserve officials. Consumer data, which happened to be upbeat, however, provided some lift. Take a look.
U.S. stocks finished slightly higher Tuesday after trading in a narrow range as investors parsed conflicting remarks from Federal Reserve officials, with upbeat consumer data providing some lift. The Dow added 0.25%, the S&P 500 rose 0.1%, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.3%. Fed Governor Christopher Waller said on Tuesday he is increasingly confident that the current level of the central bank's policy rate is sufficiently restrictive, and even hinted at the possibility of rate cuts in the months ahead. And Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee touted progress in bringing inflation down. But Fed Governor Michelle Bowman suggested another rate hike could be necessary to rein in inflation in a timely manner. Market Vector Index's head of product management, Joy Yang, said she doesn't think the Fed will reduce interest rates anytime soon.
My take is, given the resilience in what we've seen in some of these numbers, specifically the labor market, consumer spending, the economy itself, it seems like, we're not at the end of inflation, until we see the labor market come down significantly. I think we're still higher for longer.
Data out Tuesday showed consumer confidence surprised to the upside, while the National Retail Federation said consumers plan to spend about 5% more during the holiday season this year. Stocks on the move included Boeing, which climbed more than 1% after RBC Capital Markets upgraded shares from sector perform to outperform. Also, Micron Technology, which dropped nearly 2% after the chipmaker said it expects higher first-quarter operating expenses than previously forecast.
All right, mixed cues coming in from Wall Street, but Rolls-Royce seems to be on a roll. A big jump in profits is likely at the premium luxury car to jet engine maker on Tuesday, as it set a target of over $3.5 billion in operating profit over the medium terms. Rolls-Royce aims to increase margins on its civil businesses to as much as 17% in order to meet its targets. Take a look.
Rolls-Royce is vowing to deliver a big jump in profits. The jet engine maker on Tuesday set a target of over $3.5 billion in operating profit over the medium term. To get there, it aims to increase margins on its civil business to as much as 17%. That would be a huge increase on the 2.5% seen last year and put it closer to rivals. Chief Executive Tufan Ergin Bilgic has been working on a turnaround plan since taking over in January. But he's just the latest CEO to try to tackle the UK firm's persistent inefficiency. It has long trailed the margins made by General Electric, its main competitor in the market to power big airliners. Ergin Bilgic called the new targets compelling and achievable. He says they will take roles far beyond any previous financial performance. The company also set out a divestment program, aiming to shed around $1.9 billion in assets over the next 5 years. Rolls-Royce took a heavy hit during the global health crisis when many jets were grounded. That was a big blow, as much of its revenue is tied to how many hours airliners spend in the air. However, it has since benefited from a faster-than-expected travel rebound.
And well, it's not just Rolls-Royce that's soaring high on its profit expectations. There's another company that's taking a sweet pill, not a bitter one, to raise its sales target. Well, I'm talking about Novartis, and this Tuesday was drug maker Novartis' turn to tell the Wall Street that is looking at ramping up profits. The Swiss company aims for growth of 5% per year up until 2027. According to internal estimates, the drug maker believes that demand for innovative drugs would help it drive those numbers. What are these innovative drugs and what are the numbers in question here? Take a look.
Drug maker Novartis raised its sales growth target on Tuesday. The Swiss company now aims for growth of 5% per year until 2027. It said demand for innovative drugs would help drive those numbers. Novartis said the target is driven mainly by 6 drugs led by Kisqali. The breast cancer drug was shown this year to help a wider patient group in a study. The group sales forecast is up from a previous revenue growth target of 4% through 2027. It also comes a month after the Basel-based drug maker spun off and listed generic drugs business Sandoz and raised its earnings forecast for this year. Novartis cited cost cuts and higher than forecast prices for its multiple sclerosis shot Kesimpta. The group's shares rose only slightly after the update, as investors stay cautious over long-term growth prospects.
Well, all right, let's move on then from the world of pharma to the fast lane of fast fashion. Fast fashion giant Shein, that Reliance was also one of the investors into, plans to sell its shares in the US. Shein was founded in China and is now planning an IPO in the US markets. The company has hired Goldman Sachs for the purpose of listing and has already begun low-profile marketing to prospective investors. Take a look.
Fast fashion giant Shein plans to sell its shares in the US. That's according to 2 Reuters sources, who say the firm founded in China has confidentially filed for the listing. They say it's hired banks including Goldman Sachs to handle the IPO and begun low-profile marketing to investors. But analysts say the move faces numerous challenges, including a lackluster market for new share listings. Recent months have seen 4 major IPOs in the US, with 3 disappointing investors. German sandal maker Birkenstock, food delivery app Instacart, and chip designer ARM Holdings all dropped below their IPO prices in early days of trade. Shein also faces tighter scrutiny from lawmakers. In August, attorneys general from 16 states asked regulators to check whether the firm used forced labor. Its strategy of posting its low-cost clothes from China direct to consumers is also controversial. The tactic allows it to avoid import taxes, as they aren't levied on very cheap items. But critics in Congress have called for that loophole to be closed. There was no comment on the IPO reports from Shein, which is now based in Singapore. It was valued at over $60 billion in May, and has been growing fast by taking market share from rivals like Gap. Any US IPO would be the biggest by a China-founded firm since ride-hailing app DD Global debuted 2 years ago at a $68 billion valuation.
All right, staying with China, Meituan, China's top food delivery app, has posted a 22% rise in third quarter revenues. Remember, China follows the Jan to December financial year for most companies. The company's revenues in the June to September quarter stood at $10.69 billion. That's right. These were well up from the same quarter the year before and above analyst forecasts. Take a look.
China's top food delivery app posted a bigger than expected 22% rise in third quarter revenue Tuesday. Meituan reported June to September revenue of $10.69 billion, well up from last year and above analyst forecasts. The food delivery giant also posted profit of more than $500 million, which again beat last year's number. It means Meituan extended its recovery from the impact of the global health crisis. Back then, China faced restrictions on movement, which hit delivery services. Even now, demand is still not at full throttle, as China's economic recovery has lost steam in recent months. Meituan pointed to a tougher third quarter for its food delivery business due to the macroeconomic headwinds. The company's app also provides services like bike sharing, ticket booking and maps. It's the largest player in a domestic delivery market valued at around $141 billion. The firm recently expanded into Hong Kong and is reportedly eyeing international expansion.
All right, from China, let's fly off all the way to the UK and perhaps in an EasyJet aircraft. EasyJet's earning before interest and tax, EBITDA, or operating profit, for its financial year to the end of September just came in at a little over $600 million, beating analyst forecasts. Now, the British airline has enjoyed a year of strong travel demand and forward bookings ever since the economy has come out of the pandemic pressure. Take a look.
EasyJet continued a strong earnings season for European airlines on Tuesday. Earnings before interest and tax for its financial year to the end of September came in at just over $600 million, beating analyst forecasts. The British airline enjoyed a year of strong travel demand and forward bookings. EasyJet also gave a positive outlook for next year as a whole, with bookings strong for the upcoming summer. But it warned a temporary pause of flights to Israel and Jordan as a result of conflict in the Middle East meant its first quarter loss was unlikely to improve year on year. EasyJet is the latest European airline to report strong results recently, but outlooks have been largely cautious. Carriers fear the war in the Middle East, high jet fuel prices and the threat of recession all could hurt, and some investors warn profits might have peaked. EasyJet shares gained more than 1% in early trade Tuesday following the update.
Well, EasyJet there, the shares soaring 1%, but shares of ArcelorMittal, the South African giant, fell nearly 14% on Tuesday after the company revealed its plans of closing down its long steel operations. This move is likely to impact 3,500 odd jobs. Take a look.
Shares in ArcelorMittal South Africa fell nearly 14% on Tuesday after the company said it plans to close its long steel operations. It's a move that potentially impacts 3,500 jobs. The South African unit of the world's #2 steelmaker said weak demand and persistent infrastructure problems were behind its decision. Its long steel unit produces items such as fencing material, rail, rods and bars used in the construction, mining and manufacturing sectors. But the company said steel consumption in Africa's most advanced economy had fallen 20% over the past 7 years, due to limited infrastructure spending and project delays. South Africa's persistent rail logistics problems and an intensifying electricity crisis had also added costs to the business, ArcelorMittal South Africa said in a statement. Shares were down 13.87% at around 1 p.m. GMT, their lowest level since January 2021.
All right, from South Africa, let's move to an interesting story coming in from Cuba. Havana, well, on a small farm outside Havana, a Cuban family-run business produces gluten-free flour from bananas and coconuts, preferring locally sourced ingredients against the pricey imports. Cubans have been long seeking innovative solutions to a growing food crisis in the country. Take a look at this innovation.
Here on this small farm outside Havana, family-run business Baccaretto is producing gluten-free flour from banana, coconut, and yucca. Amid a growing food crisis, founder Gabriel Perez says he wants to make use of what is locally available, rather than rely on expensive imports.
At the moment, there are bananas across Cuba. There are coconuts across Cuba. Not so much rice, but there is yucca and many other things like this. When you start scratching the surface, you find a lot of underused food.
Cuba purchases most of the food it consumes from abroad. But revenues have plunged following the pandemic, and the island is still hampered by stiff U.S. sanctions and floundering tourism, once a mainstay of the island economy. Perez also points to a lack of culture around sustainability. Baccaretto not only dries and mills gluten-free organic flours, but also processes byproducts to make coconut oil, rope, fermented products, and sweets.
First, we only use organic raw materials for our products. These are raw materials that don't use any aggressive chemical insecticide or that could genetically modify the food. Second, whatever we do here must be useful for somebody. In this case, there are flours that don't have gluten. They are useful for people that live with celiac disease, people with hypertension, people with diabetes in our community.
The business takes advantage of a 2021 decision to lift a ban on private companies on the island, one that's been in place since shortly after Fidel Castro's 1959 communist revolution. Still, Perez has struggled to find the financing it needs in cash-strapped Cuba. Thousands of small businesses that have taken root since 2021 face persistent problems with financing, infrastructure, supply, and workforce. Baccaretto is small and specialized, producing around 17 pounds of flour a week along with byproducts, with a staff of 8 people. This worker at an organic shop in Havana says the banana and yucca flour are popular with consumers. But for his business to be profitable, Perez says better machinery is needed.
All right, well, from the world of business, let's now take a little bit of a digression to the world of entertainment and culture. Legendary rocker Ozzy Osbourne receives honors at the inaugural Rolling Stone UK Awards, commemorating an iconic career in music. Take a look.
That's amazing that he's going to be winning that award. That's incredible. Yeah, we're fans.
You can root most heavy music back to Sabbath, man. Yeah. Like, that sort of dark, tonal sound, so much of rock music comes back to Sabbath. You know what I mean? It's like, they're such a benchmark in music.
I think, like, it taught me to have been out of the box was all right. You know what I mean? He was like crazy, and he's just something that's been a part of my life since I was born. You know what I mean? My granddad and my dad like brought me up on Sabbath, and I found Bark at the Moon myself, and just like definition of a rock and roll star, isn't it? Yeah, all thanks to me, and he supports me.
All right, staying with entertainment, certain comments from Margot Robbie have cast doubts on her reprising the role of Barbie in a sequel. Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig were among the honorees at the 33rd Gotham Awards in New York on Monday. Barbie received special honors at the annual event that celebrates independent films. Take a look.
I can't imagine it. But again, it takes a genius like Greta or Noah to imagine Barbie in the first place. So I'm probably not the best person to ask. I just know that we put everything into that movie, and I don't know, when we finished, I felt like the tank was empty. But ask Greta, maybe she's got more up her sleeve. Never say never. Thank you.
I'll never say never there coming in, but a new documentary, American Symphony, follows the highs and lows of Grammy winner Jon Batiste and his wife Sulekha Jawad. And the award-winning musician planned to make a film about composing his first symphony in late 2021, but his parents, or rather, his partner's long dormant cancer returned as Batiste was nominated for the 11 Grammy Awards. Take a look.
Imagine, you're on stage at the Grammys and you're thinking about what's going on back home. I'm always in awe of Sulekha, how she deals with hardship.
My first day of chemo, his 11 Grammy nominations were announced.
I won the biggest prize in music, come home, she's back in the hospital. This is what we're dealing with. We just won the biggest award in music, but it puts it in perspective. Everything is put in proper perspective when life is giving you this sort of moment.
I feel like we're living a life of contrast.
Well, it became about so much more. It became about the thing that all of us have to deal with in life, the highs and the lows, the human condition. And for our lives, it was a moment where the symphony was the backdrop, but it was really more, it became the symphony of life that was captured.
I have faith that everything can change.
My mind is always making things. It's the way that I process my life.
We both see survival as a creative act.
But can you fly on your own?
These rings are a token of your marriage covenant.
In the world today, butterfly flying.
Well, powerful visuals coming in there, but as we come to an end of World Business Report, we leave you with these visuals. A host of K-pop stars attend the Mnet Asian Awards in Japan. Here are some visuals from that event. Thanks for watching.
그야말로 이슈도 신드롬을 일으켰는데요. 왼쪽 끝에 보시면 소로가 스피커가 등장했습니다. 네, 좋습니다. 정면 보시고, 네, 멋있게, 네, 좋습니다. 네, 손 받습니다. 네, 그리고 가운데 보시면 드라마를 넘나드는 가장 오른쪽 쪽에서 같이 이신영 씨의 열리를 항상 원하고 있습니다. 손 한 번 흔들어 볼까요? 감사합니다. 진영 씨 영상은 굉장히 또 가볍고 오랜만에 나왔어요. 무엇인지마다 상태입니다. 한민현 씨와 김도현 씨가 네, 다 같이 가운데 보면서 손을 흔들어주시겠습니다. 왼쪽이요. 얼마 전 드라마 소속서 거짓말을 통해 네, 이번에 오른쪽이요. 드라마원을 레드카펫 연예인으로 보여주는 상태 차승원님이 등장하고 있습니다. 연예인 같은
すごいワクワクしてますね。授賞式もあるので、あといろんなグループの方も見れるので楽しみです、とても。
ファンクラブからやったよね。あ、それ最速選考だった。一回落ちたよ。
こうやって自分の推してるグループが出てくれるのも嬉しいですけど、それが日本に来てくれることで私たちも実際に現場に行って応援できるので、また機会あったら日本にも来てほしいし INI にも出てほしいなって思うので、今回すごい貴重な機会なので楽しみたいなって思います。
でもダンスうまいですよね。
そうです。JO1 のパフォーマンス、初めての東京ドームのパフォーマンスになるので、それが楽しみです。かっこいいところと、あとはパフォーマンスがすごい素敵なところが好きです。
News9 big coverage of 5 assembly polls. Mandate